Welcome, yogis. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Pigeon is one of the most popular poses. People love it, but it's also kind of one of the more debated, somewhat complicated postures. And I say complicated because depending on what class you take, who you ask, you're going to get so many different variations and so many different answers of how you should take this posture. So I'm going to break down a few different options for you. I'm kind of explain why you might want to take these certain variations, and that way on any given day, any given practice, depending how you feel, you'll have these options to choose from. You never have to feel stuck in doing the same thing over and over because, again, whether you practice maybe earlier in the morning, you might feel more stiff, so maybe you need something a little different. Maybe later in the day, you're really loose, you can hang out in Pigeon for 5 minutes. Whatever it is, you're gonna always have these choices. So I want you to always be listening to your body. And, again, depending on the day, maybe one option of Pigeon works versus another and vice versa. So with that, I actually don't want you to use any blocks today. So if you have blocks, kick them out of the way, all right? Tell yourself, not gonna do it, not gonna use them. Not that blocks are bad, I love them, but sometimes with Pigeon, they get in the way. So I'll explain a little bit more, and I will explain where you can use a block, but for today, I really want you to focus on feeling the posture in your hips, so that's why we're not gonna use any propping at the moment. So I'll start with my left leg just so that you can see. Pigeon pose, typically we slide our knee forward, we walk the back leg back, create some space, and then we round all the way down. You might love this. This might be really easy for you, might feel great. For me, I personally love this. This feels great. But again, there are times where certain subtleties and different variations feel better for me. If this doesn't feel right for you, a couple things first, I just want you to note a very popular cue that you might hear some instructors say is to make whichever leg is forward, your shin parallel to the front of your mat. What? Why? Okay, here's the thing, yogis. We are targeting our hip. Me trying to crank my shin up here, perfectly parallel to the mat, and then come back up. Holy crap. First of all, I feel nothing in my outer hip right now, but this doesn't feel good, okay? There are some people whose bodies naturally do that, and it works. They have the torque, they have the movement in their joints to be able to do that. Wonderful. But that is not something that you have to stress about. I see students in class all the time trying to kick their shin up, and I'm like, stop. You're not even feeling it right now in your outer hip when I ask them. So let your shin land where it lands, okay? As long as you're feeling sensation in your outer hip, you're doing it right. And another thing I like to tease about when I hear cues that involve lining up with our mat, so, your shin has to be parallel to the top of your mat. Well, I'm pretty sure evolution didn't evolve our bodies to match the parameters of a yoga mat, right? All of our bodies are different, so it's okay. So from here, don't worry anymore about your shin being squared to the front of your mat. Another thing that I see students do often is they take a block and they slide it right under this gap here. I call that, and teachers will do it too, I call that fear of space between floor and body. It's like, I don't know why there's this fear, and I had it myself for sure when I first started teaching, but there's this fear that if you see that, or if you have that, it's too much, you're gonna hurt yourself. That's not true. We're doing this so slowly, you're low to the ground, you're not moving fast, you're not gonna hurt yourself. However, if Pigeon pose is so intense for you that you can't even hold it for like 2 seconds, but putting the block in helps take that intensity off and you feel more relaxed in the posture, absolutely use a block there. That's, using a block is not a bad thing. But the reason why I encourage you to start not using the block is, one, when you use the block repeatedly here, well, your body is never going to adapt. You're never going to be able to use the full range of motion. And the thing is, too, is with time and with gravity, because we're holding pigeon typically longer in classes, time and gravity, your body is going to soften and come down a little bit more. Even if it's like a centimeter, no matter how small it is, you are going to get a little heavier in the pose. So if a block is there, that's not going to happen. It's going to stop your body from doing that. So that's why I want you to try removing the block. Okay. So from here, now you know, yes, you can use the block. I'm going to encourage you to get rid of it though for now, because if pigeon is so intense to the point that you need the block anyway, and you absolutely couldn't do it without, then I want you to take this variation instead. What you're going to do is, you see how my hip is slightly lifted off the mat here? Sit completely on your hip. Your back leg is going to naturally bend a little bit. The moment you do that, your back leg is going to follow, right? It'll know what to do. And then from here, you can round down. That takes some of the pressure off of your hip, but it also can target your hip a little bit differently, which is fun too. So I personally really love taking this variation sometimes because it just feels really nice. For rounding down, yogis, no matter what variation you take, it might feel great for you to round directly over your knee and then come down. However, some of you, depending how you're feeling, your mood, maybe you want to add a little twist to it. Maybe it feels better for you to come over your front quad. So you go off a little bit more to the side. Why not? There's nothing wrong with that. Again, as long as you're feeling sensation in your hip and you can comfortably lay down, do that. And of course, the other way, maybe it feels better for you to go over your front shin, more angling towards the other side of your mat. And you know what? I really like that one. I really like that variation because it also gets a little bit of my inner thigh as well. It will feel different person to person. So play with that. Again, you have, what we'll consider regular pigeon here. And again, you can round down anyway. And then variation 2, sitting completely on your hip. In yin yoga, we call this swan. So it's just a more relaxed variation, but it also takes some pressure off of your front knee as well. Okay, I'm gonna shake out this leg, switch legs for you. From there, this next variation you can take from regular pigeon versus the other variation of pigeon. And by the way, these are all pigeon. There is no one that is better than the other. I will say this repeatedly, the right pose for you is the one that feels the best and actually gets the target area, which is your outer hip. So that's what matters. That is what matters most. So no matter which of these two variations that you are in, sometimes a lot of people avoid pigeon or they skip it. They take a completely different variation, such as figure 4, because it's a lot of pressure on their knee. That's normal, absolutely happens. But I also know that sometimes students will say, Elyse, I'm sick of doing figure 4. I just don't feel it as well, but I can't hold pigeon that long because it kills my knee. So this one is for you to try. Again, whether you're in pigeon or swan, sitting down on your hip, I want you to take your front leg and just slightly kick it out. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Just let your front leg slide out a little bit. And then again, come down over your front leg. That feels really nice. This also gets a little bit into your IT band, so it's a bonus of that. So here, and again, you can still do that from regular pigeon, where you would send your leg out and then come down. And naturally, when you do this variation, you're gonna sit more on your hip anyway. So it's not gonna look like the most aesthetically pleasing, beautiful pose, but it's functional, and that's what matters. All right, another option I'm going to show you, it's extremely similar to swan, but we call it deer. Or depending if you're in the fitness realm, this stretch is also called 90-90 because your legs kind of end up in a 90-degree angle. Please don't get out the measuring tape. You do not have to be in a perfect 90-degree angle. It's just reference that because it is what the shape of your legs turn into. As to why we call it deer in yin yoga, I can't tell you, yogis. I'm honestly not sure. But facing the long edge of your mat with your feet wide, let's say you're going to target the outer right hip, so you'll let your knees fall to the right. And so you can kind of see the angle of the legs. Maybe it's like deer ears, antlers, I don't know. I'm not sure why. I'll have to find out. And then again, from here, round down. And the subtle difference with this is that because your back knee is drawn up more and a lot more bent, it takes off even more pressure, but you can hold it for longer periods of time. However, of course, you can always kick your back leg back as much as you want. So, and then again, you do that on the other side. And remember, you can fold any direction. Fold over your front leg any way that feels best. Okay, so you have pigeon, you have swan, you have the variation of kicking your front leg out in pigeon or swan. I like to call that rock star pigeon. And then you have deer, just letting your knees literally windshield wipe one side and round down and the other and round down. Okay, last but not least, and actually before I say last but not least, you always have figure four, either seated or on your backs. But again, this is just to show you different options if you're tired of doing figure four. So this last option, you're just gonna come into a comfortable, easy seat, just with your legs crossed. Just hang here. Most of us can sit comfortably in this position. If this is hard on your low back, you can always fold a blanket to sit up on it. It's not going to take away sensation. It's just going to help support your low back. So from here, just start to crawl yourself forward. Hang out, you know. Maybe you come all the way down, head and neck heavy. You can use blocks here to support your upper body if you're not all the way down. The only thing I like to, remind students of is that, again, with time and gravity, your body will start to get heavier. So if you notice that, or if you want to test if that's happening, if you have blocks under your head, either lower them a setting or remove them altogether. See that little bit extra space that you can come down. So you just crawl yourself forward, and you'll be targeting your outer hips here, and then switch the cross of your legs, and again, round down. And that's more of a variation of double pigeon, but again, still gets your outer hips beautifully. All right, yogis, I know I talked a lot in this video, showed a lot of different options. If you have any questions, again, please let me know. Always feel free to take any single one of these options in any class that you take, any stretching that you do after a workout, whatever it is, they are there for you. All right, yogis, I'll see you next time.